internet, I draw all of them and program all of them.
That's awesome. So I consider myself a very multidisciplinary developer, and I think it's really valuable to have those skills across the spectrum, and even if you find yourself doing just one thing in a game, being able to understand other disciplines is really valuable. And so I can really appreciate that, like, everything in this game is something that you've built. That's a real accomplishment. I think that there's a lot that you've put into this game that isn't visible. For example, the research that you mentioned and sort of the formulas of interaction, I would love to see that more apparent in the game. Like, if I could better understand how does seaweed interact shrimp life, and to understand that that's actually how the ocean works would be a really powerful and, like, educational experience for me. I noticed that you bought a shield pretty early on. I think that it's hard to understand what a shield is for if I haven't encountered a disaster before. I would suggest putting in some kind of gating where it's like I get to experience something bad happening, and then that makes me value the shield when I can get it. I'm like, oh, I don't want that oil spill to happen again. I'm gonna do whatever this is. Whereas just clicking on it, it's sort of like this abstract idea that somehow this is making my life better.
It's basically time reason, so I don't have that much time to adjust the amount of experience that you can buy. And the shield is for the disaster. After 2 minutes, you have a 3% chance update every second, but I don't know if it shows yet.
So I would say don't allow the player to buy a shield until they've experienced a disaster. Like, lock it off. And then the last thing I would say is the stats. It's a little unclear what the stats in the corner are representing. I think that, adding a few words, just some labels that are like, plant growth rate. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, like, I understand what those mean. It's clear to me that I should make those bigger, but why and, like, what the narrative is behind that could use some labeling, even just something as simple as some text. But overall, really good job.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's unclear to me what the cause and effect of things are, and maybe it's because I'm sitting far away and I can't really interact with it or see the results of things. But between generating resources and spending them and how that all works does seem a little bit obscured. But understanding a little bit more the things that you talked about, how these things interplay, and it's about sort of finding a balance so that these things can thrive, I think is a very interesting concept. I don't know how fun it is just yet, but these are things I think that once you've got your core ideas kind of nailed down, you can start to concentrate on and make it a little more fun. I definitely agree that the systems kind of need to be a little bit more visible to the player so at least they can make informed decisions as to what they're doing and why things are working or not working. And I'd also like to echo the sentiment, the fact that you did the programming and the art is pretty awesome because you are thinking in terms of clean visuals that the player can understand, and also the mechanics underlying the game. If you decide to pursue this as a career, you're going to be working on probably larger and very multidisciplinary teams, and being able to understand what's important to them or to speak their language is going to be very critical for your success. So you're already doing some smart things even this early on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a little insider information other people may not have. So, Chong, am I correct that you needed to drop out of the Skill Center class in order to take some other classes required for your graduation?
Yep.
Yeah. So then you did this as a one-man show, like outside of class on your own?
Yep.
That's a lesson I think for everybody in the room who aspires to be in this field. That nobody has to aspire to be a game developer. You guys all are game developers. And people who are game devs make games, and regardless of obstacles or whatever, you dug down and brought your vision to life and made this thing happen, and that is commendable. Definitely. And then on top of that, your game has a message. You've got a reason for wanting to do this. You're trying to communicate a message for the good of all of us, and I think that's notable too. So I'm not going to add anything about the gameplay. I think these guys said it all perfectly well, but I'm just recognizing the efforts you put in, to do that outside of class, and then to really communicate your message. Really something fantastic.
All right. Thanks.